Taiwan has announced 2 rounds of sanctions against the Philippines for the killing of a Taiwanese fisherman in disputed waters. It has frozen the hiring of Filipino workers, scrapped visa-free access, recorded its envoy to Manila, and refused to accept an apology from the Philippine president's special envoy. ATV's Belinda Lloyd reports.
Tensions between Taipei and Manila have escalated since the Philippine Coast Guard fired on a Taiwanese fishing vessel last Thursday, killing a fisherman. The shooting took place in waters southeast of Taiwan and north of the Philippines, an overlapping zone claimed by both sides. Philippine authorities claimed the fishing boat was trying to ram their vessel. In an effort to end the diplomatic row, the Philippine government's Taiwan envoy, Antonio Basilio, had a marathon meeting with the island's foreign minister, David Lin, which wrapped up at 1 a.m. today. The Filipino diplomat apologized for the fisherman's death.
It's very sad and very tragic, and something that we do not take lightly, and that is why we have taken all the steps we can to show our serious condolences and apologies to the family.
Basilio added that Manila had agreed to compensate the fisherman's family and conduct a joint investigation into the incident, but that apology was not good enough for Taiwan. Taiwan's Premier Zhang Yihua said it was inadequate and not formal enough because it came from the Philippine Representative Office and not the government itself. He stressed the island would not accept anything short of a formal Philippine government apology. Zhang also reiterated demands for compensation for the victim's family, punishment for those responsible for the shooting, and the commencement of bilateral fishing talks. To show its strong dissatisfaction, the Taiwanese government made good on its threat to stop hiring Filipino workers and froze work permit applications today. More than 85,000 Filipinos work in Taiwan, many as domestic helpers or in factories. As part of the sanctions, Taipei also recalled its envoy to Manila. Philippine President Benigno Aquino tried to limit the fallout by sending a special envoy, Amadeo Perez, to Taipei bearing another apology. But the Taipei government was out to show that it meant business, refusing to entertain the Filipino envoy and announcing a new set of sanctions after the expiry of a 6 p.m. deadline for the apology it wanted. The Taiwanese premier faced the media a second time to declare an end to visa-free access for Philippine nationals and a halt to economic exchanges. A red travel alert has been issued to discourage Taiwanese tourism to the Philippines. In another show of strength, military vessels and aircraft will carry out 2 days of war games in the waters between Taiwan and the Philippines. The escalating row has also raised concerns in Beijing. The State Council's Taiwan Affairs Office spokesman Yang Yi condemned the shooting and demanded that the Philippine government conduct a thorough investigation into the fisherman's death.
Here in Hong Kong, civil servants are likely to get a salary increase of up to 3.92% this year, based on a study of the pay trend in the private sector. But they're already complaining it's not enough, despite getting a substantial pay rise just last year. Hong Kong's largest employer will have to raise the salaries of more than 160,000 staff, based on the findings of the official committee that studies pay trends in the private sector for the administration to follow. The Pay Trend Survey Committee today recommended that higher-ranking civil servants, or those earning between $54,666 and $109,365, should get a 2.55% pay rise. It proposed that middle and lower-ranking staff should get a 3.92% increase. The survey results reflected the pay trend over the past year in 109 companies with 180,000 employees.
This survey is very professional and is according to the agreed principle and also the survey field. So it reflected the salary increases for the last 12 months of the Hong Kong private sectors.
But the proposed pay rise is not good enough for civil service unions, even in today's uncertain economic environment when many companies have frozen salaries or laid off employees. Several unions today expressed disappointment and complained that the increase being recommended for them could not catch up with the estimated 4.2% inflation for the year.
We're taking into consideration of the inflation rate and the tentative patron figures, we think that there is a great possibility to have an upward movement for the salary, because this is just, I think, just a measure for civil servants to release the pressure from the inflation, and also to let civil servants maintain the purchasing power.
We have to study the report first and take account into the details of the report, and then we have to make the decision, and also we have to analyze the figures whether it's correct or not.
Just last year, civil service salaries were raised by 5.2 to 5.8%. The unions will meet with their members to discuss the survey over the next few days, ahead of another committee meeting next week, before the official report is submitted to EXCO for approval. But pro-establishment lawmaker and EXCO member Regina Ip is among those who feel the survey was conducted in a fair manner, and the government will consider several factors, including the economic situation, staff morale and inflation, before making a decision. The Consumer Council has warned the public to be careful of sales practices by agents offering hotel and dining club memberships. The council also found that most air conditioners don't live up to their claims. ATV's Arthur Urkeola reports.
There's no shortage of air conditioners on the market with the promise of keeping you cool this summer. The Consumer Council decided to put 15 brands of window air conditioners to the test and found that nearly all of them failed to match up to the manufacturer's claims.
Following a certain standard, and we use a certified laboratory here in Hong Kong, we set the conditions following the international standard, and very unfortunately, we are unable to replicate the level of effectiveness claimed by the manufacturer.
Only one air conditioner ran at 2.8 kilowatts, actually more than its claim of 2.65 kilowatts. In one case, an air conditioner ran at 2.4 kilowatts. That's 8.3% less than the 2.65 kilowatt cooling capacity it claimed to have. With the weather getting warmer, there's no doubt that many people will be thinking about buying a new air conditioner. But the council is warning that some may end up costing more than you think. Testing energy efficiency. The cost of running the air conditioners annually had a difference of about 9%, or $127. 7 of the samples the council tested were labeled Grade 1, the highest under an energy efficiency labeling scheme, when in fact they were not up to that standard.
Our view is that the discrepancy is large enough for us to pay attention to this, and we have already informed EMSD to follow up with this discrepancy and see whether improvement can be made. And of course, we will keep an eye on this discrepancy in our future tests as well.
The consumer watchdog also had a warning about the unscrupulous practices involving the sale of hotel and dining club memberships. This follows complaints about unauthorized credit card withdrawals, with some callers impersonating staff from other companies. The council pointed out that these practices could count as offenses under the amended Trade and Descriptions Ordinance, expected to come into effect later this year.
All these malpractices with adequate evidence, they can be actually brought to the court. And of course, the extent of penalty will be determined by the court.
After it takes effect, the maximum penalty actually is a $500,000 fine, together with a criminal offense, which is about putting you in jail for 5 years. So it's quite a heavy penalty and punishment if you violate the new amended Trade Description Ordinance.
The council warned consumers to be careful who they give their credit card details to, and to be sure they will make use of memberships in such clubs. Arthur Urkeola, ATV News.
A government lottery today decided the successful applicants who will get to buy more than 800 surplus home ownership scheme flats. The housing authority said more single people have applied, and the quota for them may be increased in future lucky draws. ATV's Bo Lang reports.
This morning's lucky draw was to decide who gets to buy one of 832 surplus home ownership scheme flats. The Housing Authority received more than 14,000 applications, and around 13,000 of them were white form applicants, people who live in private flats and don't receive any housing subsidies. The rest live in public housing. Subsidised Housing Committee Chairman Stanley Wong said there's been an increasing number of single white form applicants, so the number of flats allocated to them may be increased in future lotteries.
I think the Housing Authority will then take back this message from the market to consider whether in the future there's a need to increase the ratio.
Successful applicants get to choose a flat at Tin Chung Court in Tin Shui Wai. Most of the units there have been vacant for more than a decade due to a short piling scandal that caused 2 blocks to tilt. But the government insists the problem has been fixed. There are 7 other flats in 5 different HOS estates. Successful applicants will be invited to the HOS offices in Lok Fu in late June to select their flats. Over 80% of the flats are being priced at $2 million or less, 30% lower than their market value. Bo Leung, ATV News.
Relatives of the Lama Ferry disaster victims have accused Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying of being evasive and bureaucratic about their demands for justice. They also criticized Marine Director Francis Liu for refusing to apologize for his department's failings. Here's Arthur Urquiola.
In a letter to the Chief Executive and the Justice Department last week, relatives of the 39 people who died in last October's Lama Ferry tragedy appealed for more information. They publicized the letter in the media today to draw more attention to their demands. They pointed out that in addition to claiming 39 lives, the disaster also revealed major problems with marine safety. A report on the accident released 2 weeks ago criticized the Marine Department for long-term systemic failures. The relatives criticized Marine Director Francis Liu for refusing to shoulder direct responsibility or even to apologize. They pointed out that the report found problems with enforcing procedures within the department have existed for more than a decade. They also called for an independent committee to be set up to study the Marine Department's failings. The family said they had received a response from Leung Chun-ying that did not add any new information to the findings which had already been made public. They accused him of being evasive and bureaucratic. The relatives are planning to file multi-million-dollar lawsuits for compensation now. They said they understand that as ordinary citizens they can't force an apology from the Marine Department, but still believe they live in a fair and just city. In a show of respect, the government will not hold the National Day fireworks display this year, as it was the date of the tragedy last year. But the families want the money saved to go towards a legal fund to help them. Arthur Urquiola, ATV News.
U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder is standing by his department's decision to allow federal agents to secretly seize phone records from the Associated Press. He and the FBI claim the call data was needed to find the source of a leak that endangered national security.